So we have started to work with Python. Let's get to know it a little bit better. I'll mention a few key points of theory regarding Python. Don't worry, I will not go too deep into it. But so here are some basic points about Python. So Python is an interpreted language. What that means is in the programming world, there are two types of language, basically speaking. One type of language is like C, C++, where you write the code and then that code is compiled, meaning turned into machine readable code. So if you are writing C code, for example, you will write the C file, hand it over to the compiler, which will give you another file, and that is an exe file which will actually execute. In Python that doesn't actually happen. What happens here is that you write the Python file, you basically give the Python file to the interpreter, and the interpreter interprets. So the Python interpreter is basically the middleman between you and the computer, and that's why it's known as an interpreted language. There are some upsides and downsides to being an interpreted language, but that is outside the scope of what we're trying to discuss here. Python is object oriented, and what that means is everything in Python is an object. Now what that means is a bit difficult to describe, but as you learn more about it and as you slowly develop your understanding of programming languages in general, this will become more and more significant and more clear as you go along. For now, I'll just leave it here that everything is an object in Python. Python is dynamically typed. What that means is in Python, as I was saying, that everything is an object, and objects, so because everything has objects, Python has a way of determining what kind of an object it is. So when we learn about different data types and data structures in Python, then we will see that inside Python there are various types of data structures such as, let's say, integers and floats and so on. So Python stores numbers and characters differently. Of course it has to, because they're very different. And the way Python determines this, that like what is an integer and what is a float and what is a string, this you don't have to do. Like in C, for example, which is strictly typed, you have to tell while writing the program that, listen, this is an integer, and the compiler will go like, okay, I'll allocate the memory accordingly. Here you do not have to do that. Python does that for you. You just say that say that store this value here, and Python will figure out, aha, it is an integer, so I'll do the memory allocation and so on accordingly. So you do not have to specify what kind of an object it is. You do not have to, but you can, and sometimes that is necessary, but you don't have to. So that's why it is dynamically typed. As I said, if this doesn't make sense to you now, as we learn more and more about data structures and how Python handles them, this will become much more clear, I promise. Python is open source, which means that the source code of Python, well, Python was written in C, as is the next point, and you can actually look up the C code that was written for Python. So the Python interpreter is actually partly written in C and partly in Python, but that's a complicated discussion anyway. But most common version of Python is written in C, and that source code you can actually look up. It is available online. It is open source. You can modify it and whatnot. So Python is open source, and Python is highly extensible, which means is that you can add functionality on top of Python, and this is extremely important and valuable because because Python is so extensible that you can do pretty much anything with it. The core Python package that you just installed doesn't have much functionality in it by default, but over time people have developed lots and lots and lots of tools for it. If there is anything you can think of, there is a chance that there is a Python package for it. But as we learn more about Python, we will learn about a few useful packages, and you can see you will then understand how this being extensible comes in handy. You can think of it as add-ons. So Python has literally hundreds of thousands of add-ons probably. So that's one very nice feature of Python. So that's a few words about Python, and next we will look at Python syntax. So let's get out of this presentation here and move over to this demo file, which I downloaded from my brother's GitHub account, which is here. You can check out the source code, and there are many other codes written in Python here, but I just pulled this source code, and that is here. So this program basically takes any number and spells it out for you. So I'll just run it for you to see. And so I'm on my desktop, and I can just run Python. Sorry about that. Python demo.py. Yes. So as we learned in the last lesson, this is how you run any kind of Python file, and if you just run that, it says enter any positive whole number, and I can just say 34, and it will just say 34, and then it says that if I want to use again, okay, I'll say yes, and you can type any kind of number and it spells it out for you. Pretty nice. So I'll exit out of that, and then it gives a prompt back. So this code is a little bit beyond our grasp right now, but the reason I am showing you this is to tell you a few things about Python syntax. So you can see that Python Python code is written in this block format. So basically what that means is this indentation of the lines that you see here is important. You have to indent all of these lines properly, and white space is important in Python. In many other languages, especially C type languages, white space is not important. There are brackets to determine these blocks, but in Python it is not. In Python the principle is where is my presentation? Here you go. In Python the principle is that readability counts, and the Python was designed to be very readable, and because of that reason we have a design like this where the lines have to be indented. This can be a bit difficult if you have already learned C before, or if you learn Python and then move on to C. It like transitioning is a little bit strange, but once you get used to it, you will feel right at home. Also, this is one more reason why we do not write Python code in Notepad or something like that, because it will be impossible to maintain this kind of indentation properly. So for example, if I just start to type here, you can see that the IDE, the Visual Studio Code here, is automatically maintaining the indent for me here. If we were doing that in Notepad or Notepad++ even, this will not happen, and then we will get a syntax error, which is just not good. So that is why it is highly recommended that you use either idle or Visual Studio Code or PyCharm or what have you, some kind of a program that knows about this. So with that out of the way, let's now move on to our next program, which is say hello to yourself. And so the idea here is that you ask for an input from the user. To write a program which asks for an input. So for example, you just saw in the demo that it asks for an input there. So you'll do the same, you'll ask for an input, and then whatever input you give, you just say hello to that guy. So for example, so I'll if it is not clear right now, I'll write it out for you and then it will be clear. So let's build that right now. Let's save this. So let's go and make a new file. Let's save it and call that hello underscore to underscore yourself.py. By the way, when you are writing a program, it is important that you do not save a file with spaces in it. So I would not save the file as hello space to space yourself.py, because then when you are typing it here, there will be a problem. So that is, you cannot say. So here, if you were to write Python, then hello space to space yourself.py, this will not work, because the way this is interpreted is that it will try to find something called hello which doesn't exist, and then you will have a problem. So always remember that you save files without spaces in their name. So in place of a space, an underscore is typically used. So that's what I have done here. Let's save that, and now let's start coding. So first, what we have to do, first we have to input, first we have to ask the user for an input. So for that, there is a built-in function in Python called input, and this, whatever you put in here, okay, I think it doesn't make sense right now. So what I will do is stop here, and then okay, let's think about this. Okay, let me code it first, show it to you, and then I'll break it down. Okay, I'll do it quickly, but I'm not explaining. So this is our code. So let's run that first, see how it works, and then I will break down the code. That way you will understand what we have to do. So we are already in desktop, and let's run that code that we just wrote. Hello to yourself.py, and it says input your name, and I will just input my name here, and then Python says hello, your name, how are you doing. So we'll learn how to do this now, and notice that after saying this, it doesn't immediately close, it just waits for us, and then after it press enter one more time, it basically gives our prompt back. The way that I did that is, so if you run this program from desktop, this is what will happen. So it says input your name, I'll do the same again, and then it says hello, how are you doing, and then it waits. If that was not done, the program will immediately close and you will not be able to see what was being printed out. So now we have read the message, and then we can close it. Press just enter to close, or anything else, just press enter to close. Yes. So now that you have seen what we have to do, we can start doing it. So I'll just get rid of that, and let's first think about what we have to do. So we have to first ask the user to input their name, and Python has a nice command for this, or these are known as functions actually. So Python has a nice function for this, which is called input. So just say input, and whatever you put here will be the prompt. So say please tell me your name, colon space. So right now, if I just save this and run it, you'll see that Python asks please tell me your name, and I can put something here, but then nothing happens. The program immediately closes because we didn't do anything else. So now we have to store whatever the user inputs here into something known as a variable. So what is a variable? A variable is, imagine it's just a container where you can put some data, So the way you do that is you give the variable a name. So you just say, so for example, I can say my name, and by doing this you created a variable called my name. So my name is a container which will contain the data that the user inputs. Yeah, so that's it. So to explain this a bit more clearly, what I can do is I can boot up idle for you, because it's a bit more easier to see in the command line interface over here. So I'll do the exact same thing here. In fact, I'll copy and paste it. So copy that and paste it here. Okay, so again the same thing comes up, and I can say my name, and you can see that the program finishes. I got my prompt back. But now what has happened is that Python now knows that there is a variable called my name. So if you ask Python what my name is, it will give you whatever data you have inputted. So now that little bit of data is stored inside the program, inside the computer's memory actually, and you can get access to that memory, like just like I did here. So what I can now do is I can print that name back by using this. So if I do this, then that will come back. So in fact, what I can do here is the same thing. If I save that and run it, you can see that the name gets printed back. Starting to lose my voice. Okay, okay. So, but what we can now do is we can start modifying this. So what we can now do is do something fancy that we were doing earlier. So we can join this data with other data. So we can say print how are you, comma space, and then we have to join these two things. So this is a piece of text and this is a piece of text, and we are joining these two pieces of text with the plus sign. So this is known as a concatenation operation, and string concatenation is done with plus in Python. So this will print out how are you, comma space, whatever you input. So let's save that, yes, and run it. So let's put something here, and then yeah, it comes back and says how are you, whatever. So that's a brief look of how to take an user input in Python. In the if you have any doubts, feel free to ask me or my brother, in fact. And so that's it. In the next one, we will in the next video we'll actually discuss data structures. So here we have learned how to take inputs, and you saw that this input was assigned to this container, which I told is known as a variable. So we will learn a little bit more about this, about how Python stores such data and so on, and how many types of data are there and so on. See you there.